The page now has all of its content. We just need to apply some finishing styling and layout properties. Let's focus on styling the text first. To do this, we'll dig into CSS. Any custom styling should be added to a new CSS file, leaving the bootstrap.css in its original form so that we don't overwrite it. Let's check out the CSS Designer panel. Click the plus icon in the Sources section and select to create a new CSS file. First, browse to locate the CSS folder that's in our project files, and then add a name for the file. Call it styles.css and click Save. Then click OK. As you can see, the styles.css document now appears in the document toolbar. Let's rearrange our workspace a little for the next part. Choose Split View and then click on styles.css in the document toolbar to display the CSS in code view. We can also close the DOM panel for now to expand the CSS Designer. Do this by clicking the flyout menu and choosing Close. The first thing I'd like to do is to center align all of the text on the page. To do so, we need to add an element selector that references all H1, H3, and P tags because all of the text on our page is either an H1 or H3 heading or a paragraph. Then we'll need to set the CSS properties for that selector. We're basically going to be saying that anything with an H1, H3, or a P tag should be center aligned. Let's see how this works. First, click the Add Selector icon in the Selectors section of the CSS Designer. Then type H1, H3, P and press Return or Enter to commit the new selector. Notice the new declaration has been added to the styles.css file in code view. Now we'll start defining the properties. If the Show Set box is checked, uncheck it now so that you can see all of the properties available. Click the Text category in the Properties section and find the Text Align property. Click the icon to center align the text. The change takes effect immediately in Live View and Code View. Scroll through the page to notice that all of the content that's flagged as H1, H3, or P is now center aligned. Go ahead and save your changes. You should select File and then Save All to save the changes in both your HTML and CSS files at once. Let's expand Live View and check out the article section. The subheading and paragraph text in the article is centered, but it stretches the entire width of the page. What I want is for this section to only take up a certain percentage of the width of the page instead of the entire page. So to do so, we'll need to apply styling to the entire article section. I can click on the H1 in Live View and press the up arrow once to move up the HTML hierarchy and select the parent element of this H1, which is the article element. Then, we'll give the article an ID to mark it as a unique section on my page. This ID is what we will use in the CSS to identify this section and then apply styling to it. To do this, I just need to click the Add Class ID icon in Live View and type #main and press Return or Enter. Dreamweaver prompts you to specify where to add the new ID selector. Make sure styles.css is selected in the drop-down and press Return or Enter again. The hash sign indicates that this is an ID, and you can see that the new ID has been added to the list of selectors in the CSS Designer. So now let's define our properties to style this section. Select #main in the CSS Designer and then go to the Layout category and set the width to 75%. Great, so now the article spans 75% of the width of the page. If you think about it, our goal was to decrease the width of this section to make it look nice and legible. But some screen sizes are quite large. Think of the large desktop monitors that some people have. 75% looks good now, but on some large screens it might still be really wide. So let's set a max width for this section so that it will always be 75% of the width of the browser, but it won't go any wider than 750 pixels. Find the max width section and set the value to pixels, 750 pixels. Next, we want to center this section on the page. So go down to the margin section and set the left and right margins to auto. To do this, click on the units for the left margin and then select auto. Then, do the same to set the right margin to auto. In order to give this section some space above and below, we'll set the top and bottom margins to 60 pixels each. Awesome, I think this section looks great. Let's scroll down to the bottom of the page in live view and click on the footer to select it. Add a selector for footer in the CSS Designer panel and press Return or Enter to save the new selector name. In the Layout category, add a top margin of 60 pixels to create some spacing between the footer and the thumbnail section above it. Then, add 25 pixels of padding to the top and bottom to provide some spacing inside the footer. Go to the Background category to set a background color. Click the color preview next to the background color property. Feel free to experiment with the sliders to find the color you like. The color code I'll use is #383838, which is a dark gray color. Type this in and then press Return or Enter to accept the value. So now, the text is kind of hard to read because it's also dark. So let's go to the Text category and change that color property to #F5F5F5, which is close to white. Finally, set the text align to center. Looks awesome. Join me in the next video and we'll style the menu a bit further.